parish. I think it's many years since we've had the contested election, and I'm delighted to see so many people here. Could I just make one announcement before that? Not often I get the parish hall as full as this. For the information of parishioners, the post office left the parish hall today after 2 3/4 years and has gone to a shop. It's still in Trinity, but it's just moved back to where it was before. Same for my girls tomorrow morning, telling you all the post office is blue. Those who do use the post office, please now go to the shop. It's with great pleasure that I welcome both Anne and Hugh this evening. Basically, they're going to talk up to 10 minutes, and then after those speeches, we will then go into questions. And what I would like people to do, obviously stand up, say their name, and I'll only accept concise questions. We don't want any speeches from the floor. Thank you. I'll hand over to you.
There's plenty of room in the front. I'm not quite sure why these two front rows have been left empty. But anyway, good evening. Ladies, gentlemen, and I'm going to have to say honoured guests with people that have now joined us this evening, and it's a pleasure to see so many people here. First and foremost, it's a great turnout, isn't it? At least we've got a competition in the sense that we've now got an election. So democracy is very much alive here in Trinity, so let's keep it going, and it's, as I said, lovely to see so many people. I've pondered long and hard as to what I talk about in 10 minutes, bearing in mind that's all we have to say what I've done. I've had a very busy life. I've done many things, and it's being able to pull out the salient parts that will affect your voting. And that's going to be a difficult one. I've been given much advice from many people, from the parish to right across the island, and if I listened to all the advice, I'd probably just sit down now and just tell you to go and vote on the 15th. But I'm here to convince those people that probably haven't made their mind up. I'm sure there's people in here that are going to go with Dan, and there's going to be people that will go with me. But my life overall, all the way through from about the age of 21, 22, has been standing on my feet and talking and taking the world on. I find it very difficult to read a speech, and therefore it's what comes out of my head. So therefore, it comes out with a sincere wish to you as the parishioners of Trinity as to what I've done, what I can do for the parish, and how I can affect the onward going of this delightful island of ours and our, let's say, wonderful parish of Trinity which we all live in. It doesn't matter how much you prepare, you're never going to please everybody, so therefore that's why you have to say how you feel. I've switched and stopped, and John knows me well about talking, but he's cut me many times from 20 minutes, and that's enough, and you've got to sit down. So John knows me well. I was born in Bristol, no brothers, sisters, formal education, college. I qualified as a teacher, and my subject was history. I taught in Bedfordshire and secondary schools. I enjoyed teaching, that wasn't a problem. I joined Round Table. I then got involved in aspects of charity work and met somebody in Round Table who said, "You're wasted in teaching, you ought to join the finance industry." How many times have we heard that? And unfortunately, I did join the finance industry in Hitching, in effect. I moved into the Building Society movement and took over at Hitching. I rapidly rose up through the system. I went to Southampton, after Southampton I went to the City and the West End. So I've had experience of dealing with all sorts of different financial implications. Unfortunately, or fortunately I'm sure, I met my wife Kay in Southampton and her mother, not in Southampton, I met her here in Jersey. And Kay joined me in Cheltenham, where I took over as the senior manager. The senior manager in Cheltenham actually wasn't a finance post, it was basically a PR post. And it was there that I got heavily involved in the work that I'm doing presently in Jersey, and that is that I spent the vast majority of my time dealing with the general public. The C&G was a national organisation, it had a lot of staff in Gloucestershire, and therefore we were a PR person. I then, via that, started to go through the system in the sense I became president of the Chamber of Commerce. I then sat on a national theatre, and I also then, dare I say it, and became part of the Maggie Thatcher era where we had national health trusts. And that was quite an eye-opener. I became vice president of the ambulance, the Gloucestershire Ambulance Trust, which was quite an eye-opener. So I'd gone through all of that, and then my downfall. I went into politics. I joined a party in Cheltenham. I became a member of the Borough Council, and I sat on the Borough Council for some 6-7 years, one of which was I headed up the equivalent to ESC. I dealt with civil servants, I dealt with all the expectancy of what you would deal with. I also went through the era which we seem to be going through now in Jersey, and that is the business of moving businesses out of state's control. I went all the way through that in the 80s and 90s, which was quite fascinating and had a lot of experience in seeing that happen. After leaving there, we then had an unfortunate bereavement, which Kay being the only one as well, we decided to come back to Jersey. Our children were going through changing from junior school to secondary school, and we came back to Jersey in '94. And I still have little pictures just to remind you all of Kay at 2 down at Nibbler's Nook, which the family owned in 1949, and had the deck chair commission in Roselle Bay. So the family does go back some way in Trinity, and as Marge was always known in Laverne Road, the English lady living up the road. And that was the way of explaining. So I then came back in '94, and Kay went straight into teaching again. She went to Highlands first of all, then back to Blackdoe, and she stayed there until her retirement in 2012. As you know, Marge was headmistress at Gander in town. I then was offered a job in banking, ironically, in Jersey, which I turned down, and then went on, was offered a job by the LTA in London, where I took over the running of tennis, basically, in Channel Islands. Ironically, they didn't want a Jersey person because it was Jersey and Guernsey, so they wanted somebody new. So I came in, and I was very fortunate because I then started meeting all the people in politics in those days, John the Major and the people like that. And I took over a very interesting period of time because the money was ready from the LTA. It was a governing body that was prepared to spend money in Jersey, and as you know, we built the courts at Les Ormes, and if it hadn't been for the help of the states, then they wouldn't be there. It's a shame. It lasted 10 years, but we had a great time. As you know, we managed to get up to the huge tournaments we had there at 75,000 male and female, and it was something to be proud of. In 2000 also, I unfortunately met Roy Cabot and Ed LeBrun, who insisted that I join the Honorary Police and do something in the parish, and I can't thank them enough. It's a shame Roy's not with us, Cabot, and Ed, who is also not with us, but I mean he's here, but he's not in Trinity. I've had a thoroughly enjoyable time in the Honorary Police, and the colleagues that are around tonight, some of them joined me at the same period of time. I went through the Honorary Police, and then in 2011 was asked to become Centeneer, which really brought me into the whole aspect of Trinity life and what goes on in this parish. That, at the same time, I was asked to take over as presidency of the Honorary Police Association. Now that has been a complete eye-opener and has been tremendous in forging the links of where the parochial system sits, the constables in the states and all this sort of thing. And you've got one wholehearted person here that believes that that's the route we've got to go. I do not want to see any of our parochial system broken down in a way that could ruin our system and Trinity in particular. I also, unfortunately, took over the Sports Council, which was sort of, I'd have to say, with all due respect to some of the people, was slightly dying on its knees. and we took it over in a way that money was not coming from the States, but as you know, over the last, let's say, 4 years, we've been noisy. We've managed to get £6.5 million, and I'll thank Anne for that, as she sits on the Council of Ministers, for allowing that to go through, and a lot of the sports bodies are now thanking us for getting, or being noisy about getting it. The thing about that is that in most of the cases that I've dealt with, and if you take the honorary police, because bearing in mind I left or retired in 2011, most of the organisations I've dealt with is what Jersey is all about, and also what Trinity is all about. And that is that the vast majority of people, 99.9%, are all volunteers. And if we didn't have those volunteers in those organisations, and we didn't have the honorary police with volunteers, then I think this island would struggle. I think it's undoubtedly one of the pluses of this island and of all the parishes. You cannot take that away. I am sure that we will continue going forward in that respect. And you're going to dong me, aren't you, John? Yes. You will have all seen my comments, you know my views, you know exactly where I'm coming from with regards to my points. I've listed some of my concerns and what a deputy should be doing. I'm mindful that the deputy should always, it's not a cliche, always listen to its parishioners, and that is very important. If elected, you will have someone that will ask the questions, not be frightened, and not be quiet. I'm not built that way. I will be in a position of authority working on behalf of yourselves. I could have said more, but I believe I have an opportunity to express my views further later in the evening. So may I thank you all for attending this evening and seeing such a great turnout, as I said at the beginning. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to see so many people here tonight, and thank you for coming to this important hustings. It shows that democracy is alive and well here in Trinity. Election for deputy, the first time for many years. May I firstly say, Mr. Connell, it's a great pleasure to have worked with you during my term in office. I greatly valued your support, and I wish you and Dory every good health in retirement. I've had the privilege of representing you as your deputy for the last 9 years. Over those years, through regular parish surgeries, I have made myself available to listen to your concerns, and where appropriate, act on them. If I am re-elected, I will continue to do this so that you, the parishioner, can feel confident that your concerns are being responded to. Our parish community is very important to me, as I know it is to every one of you. During my time in office, I have worked hard, along with many other dedicated people in this parish, to deliver the Maison Cabot retirement homes and the Grand Clos lifelong homes for first-time buyers. I take great pride in saying that when I was Assistant Minister of Planning and Environment, it was I who was instrumental in bringing to the States the proposition to rezone that land. It is heartening to see these young people settled and happy in the heart of our community, where they belong and where they can bring up the next generation of Trinity people. These children are very fortunate to have an excellent parish primary school right on their doorstep. And also, as they grow, a thriving youth centre, which I, again with many other determined people, was involved in setting up 21 years ago. I must say this was done in the face of some opposition at the time, but look today, and how proud we all are of the centre, so well used by our community. And I'm delighted to say, to this day, that I remain President of Trinity Youth Club, which is very well run by a dedicated and committed team of staff and volunteers. But what of the future of our young people? We have good teachers and support staff in our island schools. But we need to understand what future support and resources are needed to ensure that our young people leave school well equipped with the appropriate skills to take their place in a fast-changing world. We must train our people to compete against the whole range of employment opportunities on offer. Highlands College plays an important role by offering apprenticeship schemes as well as university degrees, all of which will be needed to ensure our future prosperity. Prosperity, which is built on a firm foundation in the finance industry, a sector which I'm happy to say is facing the future with confidence. As a government, we have done much to ensure that Jersey, valued for its political stability and transparency, continues to see its reputation flourish worldwide. A secure community is a caring community, and we in Trinity are a caring community. We are fortunate in our parish to have a full complement of committed honorary officers. Let us not forget that they serve us willingly and willingly give up their time for our benefit, but also for the benefit of the whole island. Long may that continue. I want our parish to show that it cares by helping us set up a community support scheme which will improve the quality of life of vulnerable people and families. If elected, I pledge, with your support, to bring into being such a scheme, which can offer assistance with many things, such as transport to hospital appointments, shopping for prescriptions, to name but a few. I'm sure each of you can think of someone who would benefit from these small acts of care and support. When I'm asked what are the proudest achievements in office, I can say without question the reciprocal health agreement with the UK, extra funding for Pinel, extra funding for midwives in the community, and the complete refurbishment of Oakbolt's Children's Respite Home. The health of our families is of paramount importance, and it is vital that the cost is no barrier to accessing primary care in our island. It will be a priority for me, if re-elected, to work with everyone to look at ways of ensuring that visits to the GP and dental surgeries, as well as opticians, are affordable for all islanders. These then are the things that I believe in. These are the things that have motivated my life both in and out of politics. Fellow parishioners, the future of our parish and our island relies in our ability and willingness to look after all our citizens in a safe environment and to create a future in which our young people can thrive and prosper. So what can I offer you? Well, 9 years of experience and commitment, a woman's perspective in a political arena where there are too few women. I bring 9 years of experience in the battleground of local politics, where I have shown a cool head, a willingness to listen to all sides of the argument, and a fearless ability to make important decisions. I bring to our parish life a lifetime of caring for others and a record of getting things done. A determination to get to the root of any problem and a willingness to act in the best interests of the parish and its people. I would like the opportunity to continue representing you, the people of Trinity, for the next 3.5 years. I ask you please to give me your vote on October the 15th. Thank you.
Any questions? Now, if you do stand up afterwards, you just actually state your names. I think there are some press here and also camera at the back of the hall. So I take the first question. Let's see, good evening.
Desmond Hino, Trinity residents. Also, I'd like to ask the two candidates what their thoughts are on the new property tax.
Right. Did you all hear that question? They asked the candidates their view on the new property tax.
Thank you, Mr. Hinner. That's a very important question, and I think the question is, would I support the property tax? And the answer is, it's out to consultation. Initial thoughts, my thoughts are really, no, I wouldn't. I think there are some good bits in the property tax, in the consultation paper, but one bit that really concerns me is about the rates. The rates assessors do an excellent job in this parish. They keep it simple, they do it well, and they don't, I understand, they don't get many appeals against the system. So it must work, and it must work well. So if I'm for decentralising anything to the local parish, and why would we want to send it back the other way? I think we need to make sure that all of us need to ensure that we take part in that consultation, because there are some good bits in it, but I think they got a bit lost. But regarding the rates, definitely no. It needs to stay within the parishes. Thank you.
I concur with actually what Anne is saying on that point. The thing is, it worries me that this is the thin end of the wedge. I think if you look at what goes on with the procurers and the cartel in running, and the road inspectors then running the rates, the big issue is that the money comes into the parish, and the parish is spent within the parish. Anything you start putting into centralisation, we lose control. And I would question as well that if you take the present system of the rates being paid to the parish, that is one of the major incomes that come into the parish. It then looks after all the things that we do within the parish. And the procurers can't overspend. What are they going to do if they suddenly are short of money? Do they go to the parishioners and say, we're going to charge you extra? They can't do that in that sense. So therefore, I'm very concerned. I have tried to read it all the way through. There are a few points which I possibly could agree with, but on the other hand, I think that it's adamant that we keep the rates within the parish, and for the parish to decide what it does with its money, not somebody tucked away in St Helier. And the other thing is, which everybody seems to forget, it's another civil service employment, because at the present time, as it stands, our two procurers are volunteers within the parish. The cost of running, the rates and the situation in the parish is nil to us, parishioners and the ratepayers of the parish. So therefore, I would be very careful to see it, because I think also it would be the start of the dethroning of the parochial system and the parish system. Thank you.
Next question. Right, stand up please.
Patrick Delafield, is mine. I'm not in the finance sector, Mr. Raymond, so I bow to your superior judgment. I'm just a parishioner who recognises in those two answers from me, in other words, the answer from each of you, that you have the interests of this parish and its parishioners at heart. However, one of you is going to go down into the town and find yourself in the midst of a whole lot of people, some of whom you'll like and some of whom you don't. So you've got to prepare yourselves for that. My question to you two is, what do you think about Mr. Ozil, I beg your pardon, and his idea of hurling Jersey into a deficit economy? We are reliably informed that we're about to spend £90 million that we don't have. Now, in Jersey's context, of course, £90 million is absolutely nothing. But to most ordinary human beings, it is an absolutely scandalous misuse of our money. Why are they doing it? Because the civil service is too expensive. What would you do about it if you were asked to try and correct this? Or do you not think it needs correct?
What was the question?
I knew the Commandant was going to say that. The trouble is, Patrick, we could probably spend all night discussing that one major point. I find it... I can only read what's in the media and what comes out, whether the press or the radio or television. Every time we seem to have a black hole, it's okay we don't have a black hole because we're borrowing it from somewhere else. You can go on borrowing. It's like the cheque situation in the 70s and 80s, when people used to put a cheque in, they knew it wasn't going to be cleared for 3 days, so they could then pay another cheque into somewhere else. And you've got the seemingly same situation, that suddenly, oh, that's okay, Philip comes up with the idea that we've got another pot there that we'll take the money from. But at the end of the day, those pots are going to disappear. I am concerned, and I'm also concerned that the income generated by the taxpayers of the island is not going to increase that drastically. And therefore, I think we have major issues pending. And with those major issues are huge decisions going to be taking place over the next 12, 18 months. And I think anybody that says they're not involved or it won't affect them in this room will be sadly mistaken. If you just listen to what the Tory Party conference was saying the other day, they're going to try and block the gates of offshore islands and the money that's coming into them. If you take that there's a general election, if you take there could be a vote on whether we stay in Europe, these are huge decisions that are going to affect our funding. And I'm not sure where Philip is going to keep getting his money from. I wish I was in there to be able to find out. I wish I could ask the questions. But I think there's huge major issues pending. And I think that we all must be very wary of what's going to happen over the next 18 months. And I would certainly keep a watchful eye and find out exactly where all this money is coming from to be able to keep filling up the black hole. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Delafield, and I hope you ask a similar question perhaps next week at the senatorial hustings for Senator Ozef. He has done a good job over the last years. Some people might not think so. He works hard for his island. But at the end of the day, it's what we, the taxpayers, pay our income tax for. The states of Jersey don't have a bottomless pit. It's all of your money, and how it's spent on public services is the most important thing. We are not at deficit. We have, by law, by the financial law, have to present a balanced budget. And he's achieved that by all departments taking a 2% cut. We are in difficult times. We know that. We are, in fact, better than a lot of jurisdictions around this world. We have invested into the community. With fiscal capital funding, we've invested in capital funds like a dole to do, I think it's £1 million that was invested to do more for their visitor centre. We've invested in hospice to upgrade, as I'm sure some of you have been to see Clarkson House recently, the wonderful buildings that they are now, and this excellent staff and service that they provide. We need to invest in our local building industry. By that way, we can make sure that local jobs for local people, and that will help our economy. This is the first time that over the last 3 years we've had medium-term financial planning. Before, all departments were on a year-by-year basis, which wasn't good for the department, and it certainly didn't look, and it was very difficult. But by 3-year financial planning, it was the first time, and it has been successful. But there needs to be some tweaks and some lessons learned from the last 3 years, because the next medium-term financial plan will be even more important. And alongside that, what Treasury Resources have done is bring in a lot of future planning, because it's future planning, future understanding of the economy that's going to be so important. And yes, we are investing, and we need to invest. And there's investments in housing as well as the future hospital. How would I make civil servants account? Well, I think we are looking at doing that very thing, making civil servants much more accountable for what they're accountable for, and holding them to accounts. But also putting in place, asking the very important question, which they are themselves: what service do we need to provide? How can we provide it cheaper? And very importantly, do we need to provide that service? Can that service be done by the private sector or the voluntary sector? Because the voluntary sectors too have an important part to play in this, because they can deliver services which other departments cannot do, because they're able to reach vulnerable families which the government can't do. And a lot of work is being done with that, and the civil servants themselves are saying, we need to get on with it quicker, so we need to give them that resources to make sure that they get on quicker and deliver.
Right. Hang on. Right at the back. Right, this lady.
I would just like to ask the candidates about how do you feel about keeping constables in the estates?
Keeping the constables, I should realise I should have worn a yes sticker. Yes, absolutely. My heart of the parish, the constables are important in this parish. They are the direct link between you, the parishioners, and governments. They are common sense at the end of the day, and they play, within the States Assembly, they play an important role to bring sometimes, as politicians, the rest of us, back to earth when they ask, when they can be very short and sharp and to the point. It is important, that link between parish and government, because they can go straight to the place where it's supposed to go, and they can make a difference quickly. The constables understand the needs of the parishioners, and they can make a difference. Because at the end of the day, it's the community that matters, and it is the honorary system that matters within our parish. Because if the constables went in the States Assembly, the question would need to be asked, well, they're the head of the parish, do we pay them? And if we did, then I think we need to look carefully at how that reflects onto the honorary system. It's worked well, and why change something that works well?
Obviously, my total sentiments is to keep the constables in the parish. I'm not so sure all 12. I have to deal with the constables quite regularly, as John knows. So I've got to know all 12 very well. I've got to know all the 12 parishes quite well. I'm not saying there's no differences between them, but let's say there is fun whenever we have a meeting. I'm never quite sure which side or where they're coming from. But I think it's essential, it's totally essential that we keep the constables in the parish. I'm sure there's going to be things going on around the outside as to how the election reform goes through and what happens. But the link is definitely the constable. And it's so important that we, as people, I think the other thing is that sometimes we forget that if we have a problem, if the deputy's not around or we can't speak to the deputy, the constable is always there. He's the head of the parish, we must keep him as the head of the parish, and we must keep the honorary system as part of the parish with the constable. I know they don't have policing powers, and we've had the debate and the laws all changed, but on the other hand, he's still there. And at the end of the day, fundamentally, he's the last line, and he's the one that heads it. As I said, sometimes I think you all should be in a room, or in an ante-room and listen to 12 constables talking. That would be quite interesting, because I must admit, they do have difference of opinions, but they're genuine people, and they really are an essential part of this island. Thank you.
Adrian Burgess with the vote.je Trinity. Just as a follow-on from Mr. Gallifield's just mentioned, he was talking about the potential deficit that the island's running into. What is a candidate's position over immigration? It's already been sort of registered that we should be, bringing them on to universities, bringing people back to the island. So where do they stand? Should they be a cap on it, or what do you instead of having it? Thank you very much.
The other question, should there be a cap on immigration?
Especially with some of the members in the hall, immigration has the effect virtually on everything that we do. Immigration affects education, it affects health, it affects the whole system of Jersey. And having spent the last 3-4 years in and out of the magistrates' court, not on that side, but as a centeneer in the court, and looking up at gentlemen, as I say, that are in the hall this evening, I sometimes wonder why or how this has happened, how we get some of these people into the courts. You see, you go back to what we were saying earlier on. Anybody that comes into the island that has a job in a very sort of good financial firm, doctor, or specific jobs, they don't get themselves into trouble, they don't lose those jobs, and therefore they become, and most of them are 2 by 2, in other words, husband, wife, and 2 children, and they spend money in the island and everything is okay. Where I find it very difficult is that we have to adhere to legislation in the courts, where sometimes, years ago, way before my time, it was a question of, well, if you don't like the island, you can get the boat in the morning. And that, I mean, I know it's an old-fashioned saying, but that's what happened. The problem we have now is that, and I find this very difficult, and I'm not privy to the information, but I find it very difficult. We're not in the EU, but we're party to the EU, and yet we have to adhere to all the regulations that come through the EU. And when you're in the magistrates' court, and I wouldn't want to disclose certain information, but there are times when you think, my goodness me, how did they get here? And then you find they go down to Social Security, they fill the right forms in, and they're very well looked after. I just wonder how much our Social Security payments have gone up over the last 5-10 years with the influx of people that haven't been able to tie down jobs. It's something that I can only see from the outside in the sense of what the media say about it. I think it's going to be difficult to be able to put a total cap on it because of the restrictions laid down by us by law. But on the other hand, the island's not getting any bigger. We're not growing land. We have 100,000 plus population now. I'm also not sure, which I can openly say, that I'm positive as to how many people we actually have on the island, bearing in mind some of the establishments that have a number of people employed there. And I think that we need to look at it. It's the biggest issue that this island faces with taxation, and that is immigration. I probably haven't answered the question because I don't know the answers of the statistics. But we really do have to do something because at the end of the day, unless somebody, I mean, whether you make jobs actually, you must have a job before you come in. I know the Population Office is trying to control that system, but it's form filling, and therefore, is it the right thing we do? I'm not sure, but I am sure about one thing, and that is that we must look at immigration, and we must look at it in a very, very sensible way, and actually say enough is enough. If you look at what's happening in the UK, I mean, their populations are done something bigger. They're concerned about it. They're trying to find out ways of stopping people coming into the island and becoming a resource or becoming a part of the system where they're having to use education, health, and the cost of running any of our organisations in Jersey. So it needs to be looked at, and looked at fairly quickly once the new assembly's been established. Thank you.
Thank you. I think the question was, should we cap the population or the immigration? It's now an interim policy of 325. Does more need to be done? Yes, it does. And we need to do it, but it needs to be done in a managed way. The most important thing I think that we can do as an island is education. Is making sure that when our young people leave school, leave university, that they have the right skills to fill these jobs. At the moment, there seems to be a bit of a mismatch. Businesses want this type of skills, and we're not, the young people coming out aren't quite filling those jobs. That's wrong. That's got to change. We need to put more emphasis on education. Use Highlands, and there's a lot of work being done in social security with apprenticeships and with trackers, getting people back to work. Can more work be done there? Yes, I'm sure it can, and social security are doing a good job. But they need, it's not just them, it's another one. It's business as well, looking at succession planning. I think within the States over the last years, we haven't done enough in succession planning. We need to make sure that we can put that middle management or whatever, give them the resources, give them the skills for them to progress up that ladder. Businesses, when they come over here, they want the best staff, and they will always bring in, most of the time. And the Population Office rightly asks that question, well, why do you need to bring them in? You need to employ local people. So they have got tighter, and the number of licences have been less. But more can still be done. I know next year the Population Office is bringing back a full population debate, and we will have that debate next year. But we also need to look at diversifying too. Digital businesses. This is a fast-moving world, and a lot of our businesses is going to be done digitally. We need to be prepared for that. Our schools, in the primary schools especially, they are getting prepared for it, but it will take time. We will never ever stop immigration because our birth rate is always more than our death rate. So there will always be an increase in our population. And also, our young people go to university, settle in the UK perhaps for 2 or 3 years, get married, have a family, and decide, obviously, that Jersey is the right place to bring up their family. And they will return. Again, that's an increase in the population. It is difficult. There's no one quick answer, and there's no one quick fix. But for me, education is number one priority. Succession planning, and making sure that our young people, when they leave school, have got the right skills and got the right experience for the businesses, and the businesses employ local jobs for local people. Thank you.
Surely amongst the crowd this large, there must be right. I saw hands sort of go up.
Okay, David Rotherham. Question you won't like, somebody ought to ask you this. Not so much a traditional problem, more an island-wide one. The current way drug use is dealt with is possibly not delivering a satisfactory result, you may disagree. If you do agree this is an unsatisfactory situation, what direction do you think we should go with drug policy?
It's a pretty broad question, isn't it?
Drug policy, right. Drugs. Alcohol can be a drug. We know that we've got a high level of alcohols in Jersey. But what really concerns me more than anything else is the non-psychoactive drugs that are coming in so easily and affecting our young people. And a lot of work is being done. There's always more that can be done, but you never stop learning from them. These drugs come in so quickly and so easily. In my position as Minister of Health, I get advice from Misuse and Drugs Council to say, Customs, the police have had X, Y and Z drugs, they found them, they're not on the classified list. And if the advice from Misuse and Drugs Council say, please can you classify them as a dangerous drug, then I can do. But let me tell you something. As soon as it's classified, these drug dealers can just change a compound in that drug and they become legal again. It's as simple as that. A young person before Christmas said to me he was up at Fieldview, he said, you know, Anne, he said, it's easier to buy a non-psychoactive drug over the internet than it is to buy a packet of cigarettes. I was shocked by that, really, really shocked, because I can see the effects day in, day out. Those young people who come into A&E with the results of alcohol, especially alcohol on top of using non-psychoactive drugs, is heartbreaking. So it can affect their lives. They can affect their lives for the rest of their life. What are we doing about it? Education have really done, and with Chris and me no way, of going around all the schools, talking to parents. The schools do a good job in talking to the young people, time and time again, as well as the youth service and the Yes Project. But it is all our responsibility, it's all parents' responsibility to listen to our children. Have things gone changed? Well, why have they changed? Have they got a problem? Have they got a problem at school? Is there a problem with their friends? The prison, we've gone around every school explaining and explaining to the parents. We're just about to finish, I think, with Lucky School this week, of the effects of it. Sad to say, when I went to Granville School with them, there was only about 15, 16 parents there. And I thought, well, there's 15, 16 parents who are going to be wiser, so that's a step. But it's all our problem. It's all our problem because it affects young people and it can damage their lives. And more work needs to be done. We need to put more resources in, and that's certainly something I will look at, and I want to carry on doing that. Thank you.
I mean, the basis of this is education. We have tried, or the states, with the States Police and the Honourable Police, have tried to look at different ways as to how we can help. And it's very difficult. It's never the person taking it, because it's trying to find out the sources. But as Anne said, the biggest problem we're having is how they get into the island. And they're changing, the legal highs are changing, not weekly, but they're changing monthly, and it is affecting our youngsters. And it is slightly concerning, because you only have to go to the youth court, where we ask on most occasions to say, can we have both parents there? We find we only end up with one. You then look at the probation reports on them, and there's a history. I hate the phrase, but we may have lost a few people because we just don't have, and I will accept this, and I think the great news of what Anne has just said, the resources to be able to track it a lot more. These kids are ruined. It's exactly the same where I think there's a little bit of a laissez-faire approach now with regards to if children or if youngsters are caught with legal highs, drugs or whatever. If it's the first time, then we're trying to pull them back to parish hall inquiries. And this is such an important asset that we have. I mean, if there's lots of drugs, then they're straight down the magistrate's court or then the royal court. If we pull them back, if it's the first occasion with very small amounts, then let's get the parents in, let's talk to them, let's get probation in, and let's try and deal with it from the ground floor looking up. But it does need resources. It's a modern 2014 problem which all jurisdictions and all countries have. But we don't want to use our youngsters. And if you look at some of the things that have been going on with self-harming, this agreement where people have been committing suicide, all this, if you look at it, has been related back to drugs as well. We don't want to frighten the general populace that there's an issue out there, but with sensible talking, sensible resources, and the fact that we can get hold of the parents and using the existing resources we have at the present time with probation and with the help from the hospital. I'm not going to say we're going to finish it or going to kill it, but at least it will save some children. Some children are affected badly, and it's those that unfortunately we hear about, but there is still quite a lot of work to be done, and I look forward to seeing whomever is in power that they look at this thing which is affecting a lot of our children. Can I just say one thing? If anybody thinks it's a certain category or level of where the child comes from, it's across the board, from the wealthy to the poor. Don't ever think that it's just the poor. It's across the board. And I think one final thing, especially being surrounded by teachers, it is the teachers that can probably see it first of all. The parents tend to ignore it, but it's the teachers with the change of view of a child. It sits in the corner, it's not expressive, and suddenly we've got to use every resource possible, because this, at the end of the day, whether one likes the phrase or not, is definitely a killer. And as I say, it's great to hear some of the comments that Anna's made, especially with regards to the resources that could be made available. Thank you.
Hi, Alex Forster. The bus service to the island, to the parish, is pretty appalling in my eyes, from the point of view that the last bus, if you work in town, is 6:45 in the evening. Sorry, 6:45 in the evening, which means realistically there's very limited chance of being able to kind of make it, which means if you work in St Helier, the chances are you drive in, you add to the traffic at the bottom of the hill, and you take up kind of the parking spaces. What would you do as the parish deputy to try and improve public transport?
Having just dealt with Jersey Live, that's a great question. There's an implication in that statement as well. I didn't realise until somebody started telling me the way the bus service worked, and the fact that Trinity is not looked after very well. I actually spoke to the bus service, and I knew a couple of the chaps down there because of the work I do with the Honorary Police. Well, the trouble is the buses aren't full in Trinity, so you don't need the buses, was one of the first comments. The second comment was, well, of course your lanes are a bit tight in certain places, and I know John's had this conversation, and I find it very difficult to say, well, okay, you've got a resource, you're given a fair amount of money from the states to be able to be here. I think that you should provide some more resources yourselves to Trinity. And I'm sure if they looked at the patterns of work, that their whole argument is based on one thing, is usage and numbers. If you take that, what is it, 8:30 in the morning and 7:30 from the Trinity Arms. If you miss those two, it's not until 11:30. And then the same argument comes back in the evening. You have to finish early work to get out. And I said, well, why can't you put it later? And I tell you the other thing that comes out a lot of the time is that a lot of our youngsters say, you know, we're having to get parents to drive us in and pick us up. We'd like to go into the town, cinema, or whatever. So I would push. I'm not sure what the answer is. I'm sure Mr. Lewis gets inundated with questions from all the parishes, but we are, I've got to say, I personally think we're badly served. And if there's only one on it initially, I still think that if people know there's a link, there will be more people on it. And I would, if elected, I would push that more than anything else, because ironically, it's one of the questions that has come up on the doorstep, which I had not allowed for at all. And it is obviously a concern to quite a few people. Thank you.
Thank you. I know we've had that conversation on the doorstep earlier this week. Yeah, as if you don't use it, you'll lose it, and unfortunately. But I know that the bus service has improved to Trinity, and there's more buses to Durrell. But then, if you're walking from the heart of the parish, you take your life in your hands when you walk down to Durrell. But it's again is consultation. The Liberty Bus asked for comments at the beginning of a summer season and the winter season. And I know there's one good parishioner here, invariably makes comments. And she's done it from time, constantly. And I think, well done, because she managed to get a bus on a Sunday up here. So, right, we need to be careful on that one. But it's telling Liberty Bus, hang on, we're here and we need that bus. But again, I think Liberty Bus could be perhaps a bit more inventive. We know it's not many people going to use it perhaps 6:30 at night. But how about having a laser bus coming up one hill and down the other hill? I know they tried that, but let's try and help them think outside the box. That's important. But it has improved. The buses have improved. But it is a part, and I'd like to think perhaps with the second phase of the Grand Clos that there's going to be even more of a need. So that will add pressure to the Liberty Bus to come as far as Trinity, and perhaps do the loop and come down St John's Road. Because part of our transport strategy is to get more people on the buses, walking, cycling to school, and whatever. Well, that's the case, but the Liberty Bus needs to provide the buses to be able to get us out the cars, to get us into town. So we all need to work together. And as I said, if I'm there next year, I will. The next bus consultation comes out, or even before, so we can go down to Liberty Bus and say, right, come on, what are you going to do for the parishioners of Trinity? Thank you.
Lord Lewis, no question, there is a bus at 10 to 7 now.
Anybody got the information about buses? That
was the letter you wrote.
That's coming back from the rugby club on Saturday afternoon.
Yes.
They've actually improved the bus service in Victoria Village, and they're now running all the way through to Mumford. And I can't see why Liberty Bus can't run from Durrell down here, round the loop and back again.
Yeah, we've mentioned that many times, what they will do, go around the loop to the north and back to Durham and back to down.
You don't have to go around the north.
Right, any other questions? I'll put the bus service out tonight. Yes, sir, understand? Good evening, sir.
It's a two-part question. The first part really is that you have both of you spoken very warmly about the role of the constable in the States. How would you, as deputies, differentiate your role from that of the constable? What added value do you bring? And secondly, what is the major challenge that you would see confronting the parish in the next 5 years, and what would you do?
You didn't ask me that one. Right. Good question.
And what see the parish in the next 5 years. Right, added value. As deputy over the last nine years, I've had many parishioners come to me with concerns, as I said, concerns, looking at how they can actually help, and I do where appropriate and I act on them, and I hope I've solved most problems. But I think the role of the constable too is when parishioners are in real need, and there is more of a parish need, they will go to the constable. And that's where the constable's strength lies. They know inside out and back to front most of their parishioners.
Wouldn't go that far.
They know their parish extremely well. They work with all the rate assessors, the honorary police, and that's where the constable comes into their own. And the constable can then have good links with that government, or whatever the problem is, and they need to go straight away. Not to say I don't have those links, because I do have those links, but we tend to, I think constable and deputy role tend to complement each other. Regarding the second part of your question, Sir Nigel, I take liberty for two things. One very positive, and one perhaps it is positive, but slightly different. The positive one is I'd like to set up a community support scheme here in Trinity. Our community, the community support schemes have worked well in St Clements and now St Bernard's, and more care is going to go into the community. And as we're an ageing population, we need to ensure that our elderly population are well cared for, vulnerable families are well supported. And it's highlighted, I'm sure most of you perhaps have noticed, the postie scheme. And full marks to the post office and Kevin Keane for getting that up and running. And they have won national awards and European awards for that postie scheme, a call and check. And I know Harvard University in America is looking at that scheme and trying to do something similar in there. So well done Jersey Post, because we're leading that way. So with that community support scheme, I'd like to see that up and running within the next couple of years. But when I've been out walking the streets, walking the roads, one thing that's come up time and time again is the traffic. And I think that's something with the new constable that I would like to support him with, and how we can sort out traffic problems here in parish. But saying that, the traffic problems are an island-wide issue, and we can't just do it in isolation. So we have to work as an island, because speeding of traffic too fast, too many cars or whatever, going up different lanes, and I'd like to think with a new constable, we can sit down and work how we're going to achieve it with all of you, giving that support too. Because it is an island problem, but it's also a local problem. It affects us locally too. So we need to play our part in that too. Thank you.
It's one of those questions that you need notice of. Absolutely brilliant, thank you. I see the constable is very much, as Anna said, is very much part of the parish. Where I see the deputy expanding in a wider issue is that if you look at the demographics of Trinity itself, and you look at the people in here, we have 2,111 voters. I'm not quite sure how many houses, I haven't counted them, but I've certainly seen enough over the last couple of weeks. 1,200 houses. The interesting thing about the demographics of this particular parish is that virtually everybody pays tax. It's a wealthy parish, whether rich or poor, and we're very much Middle Jersey. And therefore the deputy's role is to make sure that the finances of the island overall is very well protected and looked after. Because everybody in this room is affected by what goes on in the States. And it's important that the deputy role looks at those issues. It's exactly the same with increasing taxes, whether the ones we've mentioned before, the rates going into town, the situation which I still can't get my head around at the moment as well, and read it in great detail, that once you start letting properties, and can I say there is an awful lot of letting properties on the back of houses where the deposits are now going back into a central fund after the 1st of November, and that will include, I know it goes into Andean Homes, but it will include making staff available to monitor those monies. And in the past, there didn't seem to be any problems for many of the people that were renting properties in Trinity. It's those sort of issues that the deputies must involve themselves with. And I think the feedback comes from the Conotal at the top, because it's those people that they will go and complain to the Conotal. I think the deputies have a much wider view of what is going on. They can speak much widely on issues that affect us overall, and I think it's so vitally important that that's where the deputies, it's that extra voice, it's that voice that says, hang on a minute, this is affecting our parishioners, we ought to be doing something about it. With regards to the 5 years, the traffic problem is always going to be with us. The moment you have straight roads, it's like our road, it's a shortcut now, and suddenly cars are travelling down the road at speeds that they weren't years ago. And we're always going to have those problems in the parish we live in. But again, it's all about communication, talking, and let's get together and find out what we can do. But again, it's an issue that affects every parish. I mean, you've only got to look at St Mary's and the issues they had there. That's been an exercise in itself. I've got the Sheffield Police here tonight, so I can make a joke about that. I think they've had more problems with that than they probably would have seen in ever coming. The other thing is very minor point, and that is it would be lovely to see some of our restaurants coming back into Trinity that we used to have many years ago. We seem to have to travel a long way to meet up. We have the Navigator and a few others, but it's a very, very personal effect on that. But I think we need people talking. That's what the deputy's there for. We need people talking to us. We've got to find out from you what you would like, because I'd like to reverse the questions, Peter, and say, what would you like? What have we got to look out for? I mean, and this is some of the questions that we need to do as deputies. And I think, not necessarily here, but in other parishes, some people have forgotten the role of the deputy and how important it is to mix with the general public and find out exactly what your feelings are. Thank you.
Ian Tate. You mentioned the Grand Close and you mentioned the retirement homes, both commendable developments of recent times. But one of the things that makes Trinity, for me, the best parish in this island is the other side of that, the green space that we have, the size of our population, I suppose, the headlands, the agriculture. And I guess I'm very interested to know what your view is on getting that balance right, indeed, of the development and in terms of what's been achieved already, and in terms of, I suppose, scaling that back or indeed holding it as it is.
Thank you. There's a lot of policies in place with regards to agricultural land and what you can and cannot do, and I think with John having been the Vice Chair of the planning, has really, he's kept out of it because he has an interest, because it's his parish. But on the other hand, we've got to make sure that we keep Greenfield. I mean, this is one of the whole asset of this parish, and I've only got to look out my window and all I can see is Greenfield. So it's essential that we look at the areas that need developing. And what slightly worries me is that there's a sudden transfer of ownership. If I could be very, very complimentary to the farmers of years ago that kept their land and made sure that they looked after it. The problem is now, if you look at a lot of the land in Trinity at the present time, it's let out to the two big combines with regards to potatoes. Now that's an industry we must keep. On the other hand, what we don't want to see is some of these plots of land, which they've done recently, some have been sold to people that we don't know what they're going to do with, and they can put pressure on planning and everything to see whether they can build houses or whatever. But the main thing is, we've got to keep it green, but we also, and I think with a lot of younger people, and it's refreshing to see younger people in the audience tonight. Hustings, wherever you go, tend to see a much older group, but it's great to see so many younger people here that are interested and those questions. It's essential that we provide housing for the youngsters and also the way we look at it. We just don't want housing estates to grow up everywhere. It has to be disciplined, it has to go through planning, and instead of waiting for planning to tell us, perhaps we should be looking at it and saying, right, okay, there is a situation where we could put some houses. And it's exactly the same with the new 5 houses going up at Grand Clos as well. We've got to provide it, not telling somebody else telling us what to do. We must be in control of our own parish, and it's us to make the decisions, not some developer who wants to try, make the money and then walk away. I have been around this parish. I have found houses in the back of houses, behind houses, I just didn't believe existed. And I've seen farm buildings that have been split into 5, 6, 7. I've got to say, it's a great shame. I know we can't afford to keep the big houses, but let's make sure that we keep our parish as it is, but still keeping an eye open that we provide the facility and we make the decisions, not some third party. Thank you.
Green zone. I mean, when I took, well, when the council at the time, we took the field at the Bonco and Mesa Cabra. At that time, we very much said, and we said it to all of you parishioners, this is the only field that we were looking at rezoning. Because it was important at that time, it was important for our families, and it's important to bring, because I said we looked after them, we looked after them with school, with the youth club, and then when they get to 18, 19, we said, sorry, there's no houses that you can afford here in Trinity. And we need to make sure that we have the nucleus of the next generation who would be honouring police, who would live and work in the parish, and their families grow up here. I firmly believe that was right at the time, and still believe that is right in the time. Last year we did a relook at the island plan, long debate. Trinity, we said, Council Line at that time said, no more things, we don't want anything else rezoned. We had what we wanted, which was the Bronco, that's fine, no more. Nothing was rezoned in that island plan last year in Trinity, and that needs to be remained, and that needs to continue. Not to say that houses will be built, but they need to be built in the built-up area, and it's very well defined in the island plan. Like you, yes, amazed how many houses in the houses there. But what we build needs to be right too. It needs to be right for that situation and complement the area that it's being built in. There are still some areas, I'm sure, within Trinity in the brownfield sign zone, and perhaps some houses will be built there. But we gave category, and I still abide by that I will not support any more green fields being rezoned in Trinity. We had the one that we wanted, and for our future families, and that was most important. Thank you.
There's been a lot in the media lately about trying to get tourism back on track. I'd like to head that views on how they think this could be achieved.
Yeah, tourism back. I can fine summer. And I heard today that our numbers of tourism has increased this year for the first time for quite a number of years. I think that's partly due to the weather, but also partly due to what we have on offer. We have a very good island. We can offer an awful lot, and it's going to be event-led, probably most of the time. Rugby made a tremendous difference. For those who go up to the rugby club when the home games, a lot of supporters come over. Good for them. They come do a package. They kind of package, air flight and hotel. We need to do more. We need to do more of that. And it's the marathon next weekend. That's brought in a whole lot of runners and supporters. So we need to be more thinking outside the box of what more needs to be done. There's Durrell and all that and all the good work that they do there. It's his events led, and we need to invest more in that. The Tourism Development Fund have had an investment, and I think now with Kim Keane leading Visit Jersey, that will make a difference next year. But also next year, we've got a great product here, and I think we need to sell it. And I think that the new board for Tourism Jersey will make a difference. But also next year, we've got the Island Games, and already for those 10 days, if not longer, Jersey's full. It's bringing over about 3,000 supporters as well as participants, and that's good for Jersey. Sometimes I have difficulty sleeping, and in the morning I was listening to Radio 5 Live. I don't know if any of you heard that there was non-league football programme on, and they were talking about Guernsey being high in the league of football, and they had, I didn't catch his name, but they had someone from Jersey on, who wants to promote Jersey football into the league. And what he was saying is, if we can do that, if we can get football up and running together as a league, and Jersey League, as they have done with rugby, getting into UK League, that can benefit obviously to the players. But he also was very positive, very much thinking about Jersey, to say, well, when the teams come back to Jersey, they will come with their supporters, and that's a good thing for Jersey too. And this was at 5:15 in the morning, and I thought, come on, you're a good advocate for Jersey, but it is going to be event-led, and because we have a wonderful product, and we need to make sure that investment like the Durrell, and also with the other attractions. So I hope with the Tourism Development Fund, they will apply for that money, because that money is there, and we need to keep up with them. And I know there's the future plans and strategy is out for Fort Regent. That's a long-term project, but that's looking into the future. So we need to keep our eye on, say, the next 2 or 3 years, but also looking how Jersey can evolve for tourism in years to come, and Fort Regent will have a part to play in that as well.
Probably go on all night about this particular point. It's refreshing that I've heard a politician say event-led tourism. In 2000, I stood up and made an absolute speech about saying rugby's going to go well. And Bill, in those days, we were struggling to even accept the fact that they understood what event-led tourism was. No, we're okay, and we're now turning it round. I find it slightly bizarre that, having pushed all this for so long, that we're now going to rely on tourism being event-led. I think it's essential. I think we have to be careful, because the one side of the success story of rugby, we've now got netball into Premier Leagues, and they're spending a lot of money and people are coming in. And the biggest issue, and the one thing is that all politicians have suddenly realised, oh, would you rather go to Doncaster for the weekend, or would you rather come to Jersey for the weekend? And you know where you're going to go. You're going to come to Jersey because you want to come here. The hotels are full, it's great. I think we have to be very careful with football, because the one biggest complaint about rugby at the moment, which everybody knows, is that there's no one person in that Jersey team, well, there is one person, sorry, in that Jersey team that is local. Now, there is a big catch here that you've got to watch. If football goes down the route and it wants to become totally professional, the FA don't want us at the present time, let's make that clear. But the point is, are we then going to have a football team made up of mercenaries that we're paying to come over here? It's amazing they do get their passes to be able to play rugby. It is quite amazing that those players come in. If you look at the second team, which is the, what do they call, the athletic team, they're doing extremely well. All local people, you can relate to them. Netball, local people, you can relate to them. And I think what they're doing is an absolutely fantastic job. Craig Colking is looking at ways of raising money. To do the football team, it's going to be expensive. And we start off right at the bottom. But it's so refreshing to hear that event-led tourism is very much back on the agenda. It was there in the first place. I came back in 94, what was it, 97, we lost the golf up at Jersey European. We used to have a golf event which was on the UK tour, European tour. We lost it because of 30,000 and the States wouldn't pay. That brought in lots. I won tournaments up at Les Ormes, and I can speak, as I say, for length as to the number of times I asked for money to support us. No, what does it bring to the island? We were filling hotels. We filled 2 hotels on every occasion for the week, and it was difficult. So it is refreshing to think, and also it's refreshing to think that the politicians are actually speaking to me now and saying, yeah, perhaps we should have done it. I still think they make it difficult, but I think we've got to push. There is so much done with sport. There's 26,000 people that are members of sports bodies. Take that they've got a parent or another partner, that's 50-odd thousand people affected by sport. And it's an important asset of this island. The more sport we do, the less they're in the hospitals. The more we encourage them to play, the better it is. But I just would put that caveat, just be careful that we don't go down the route of losing our persona with regards to the people that are playing in the teams. And I would say, I credit Linda Andrews absolutely unbelievably what she's done with netball, but they're all local. And it's those sort of events that we should hold, and there's people coming into the island, as Anne quite rightly said. But we've got to keep pushing it. And the other thing, just finally, is that, which annoys me immensely sitting in the some of the things I do in the court, where people turn around and say, and still say, that there's nothing to do. It is amazing, that statement is still coming out. And yet there's clubs, I don't care if they're in the Tiddlywinks Club, I don't care if they're in the painting club, but there are so many things that this island has got that we should be pushing and pushing and pushing, because we keep the kids off the street, they're not going to be taking legal highs, they're not going to be doing this, and they're going to keep out of the hospital and keep Anne's costs down. The whole thing has to be looked at. There is such a big issue there that we can make sure that loads of people come to this island. The one thing we have to accept, gone are the days of week, fortnight's holiday. We're now down to 3 or 4 days, but let's use it. And then you still see in the paper, there's hotels closing. So, whilst it's up at the moment because of the weather, let's use it and let's make sure that we use all the facilities that we have on the island. And one final point, which I can honestly say, you can go to Hampshire, Dorset and Somerset. The facilities that we have for sport, we've got to make sure that money is spent on it, but the facilities we have for sport must be kept, and we must keep making sure that everything is okay. And that scheme for the fort, it's going to cost a lot of money, but my goodness me, if we can push that through, that will be an absolute godsend to the island. So I can't, as I say, you're on to one of my subjects. It's an area that we must keep going. And Mo, thank you for the question.
Right. 10 to 9, I was thinking, there's many questions at sort of around 9 o'clock before you close. If there are more questions, you would like to ask more questions? If not, don't stop asking questions, I'm just trying to say it is 9 o'clock. Yes?
Angela Oswell. Following on from the tourism, how would you support and develop or redevelop the agriculture in Ireland?
suppose the question, the answer could be if we can produce something that nobody else is producing and become rather unique, but I think that those days are gone. I sometimes wonder whether the marketing, I mean, what is it, Genuine Jersey do a great job in making sure that our produce does get across to the other side. I find it difficult because I don't know the figures, but we always tend to look one way and not the other way, and I just often wonder whether some of our products couldn't be going the other way to France. But it does create problems because of the legislation with regards to the EU. But it's the farmers. The farmers are basically disappearing. Nobody's coming up with a great idea. The biggest problem is cost. The biggest problem, do we incentivise the farmers from the base? I mean, do the states get involved? It's one of those questions that I'd love to see, more involved. I'd love, would it be great to see the greenhouses back with the tomatoes and the cucumbers and everything else? But the problem is, it's so expensive now to do things and to keep within the legislation. When I hear from Jersey Potato that the size of the potato has to be this size, if it's that size, it's thrown out. You've only got to look, unfortunately, at the fields over the last couple of months where you've seen the potatoes thrown back into the fields basically because they weren't the right size and they weren't those that they wanted. And that's the problem. It's the purchaser demanding the situation, and I think if farmers could come up with something, I think it's again something that the states of Jersey should support, because effectively that's what we're famous for, isn't it? The Jersey potato. And we should have really moved on from there. So unfortunately I can't, in my own mind, think of anything that I could think of that we could do unless something comes up rather uniquely that we can produce and send offshore. Thank you.
Yeah, at one time there were a whole lot of small farms, and they've gone, unfortunately, and I think they've gone because of many reasons, one being the power of the supermarkets, which is a sad thing to say. And I know that when the RJA, and especially the Jersey Farmers Union too, are trying to work extremely hard, so when supermarkets come in here, that they buy local, and that's important. That we should, when we go shopping, we should be able to see local vegetables, local, not so much local food, but local strawberries, local raspberries in the supermarkets. And I think part of agriculture, it should be part of the agriculture department when supermarkets do come in, should have a policy or a condition put on them that they need to be a certain percentage buy local. Because I think that if we have these supermarket chains in here, they need to invest in our local industries and support other industries. But one bit of agriculture is doing well, is dairy agriculture, the dairy farming. And they've actually got themselves up, shaken and invested a lot in this new building and a new way of packaging their milk and also exporting. And they're now exporting, I don't know how many tons of milk, but to China. And, China, it's a long way. But China, it's a very niche market in China, and they are wanting our Jersey milk, because they have problems over there with their own milk. And they know that Jersey milk is pure, and it comes, and they can trace it back to the actual cow and which field the cow has been in. So we need to look more at that, because I know I was speaking to the Chinese ambassador was on about selling ice cream to them over there. That's where we need to go, to find niche markets for that industry. And perhaps, as a knock-on effect, those niche markets can look at sending Jersey rolls. Don't ask me how they would get there, but it's that type of working to be able to diversify and finding the niche markets for our very good product that we have, the Jersey rolls and the dairy milk, and there's still some tomatoes growing over here. So that's that way we can look at going out, but also must ensure that the supermarkets, the big chain of supermarkets especially, that they buy our local products. And I like to think within somewhere in the agreement that when they come in, that there should be an agreement and there should have an obligation to buy a certain portion of their vegetables and fruit are local. We have a good product, so why would they want to bring it in? It is down to cost at the end of the day, probably, but we have a good product, and we should be selling that product as far as we can.
Any further questions? No? Well, could I, on your behalf, thank both Anne and you for attending this evening and giving us a really good hustings. I think Trinity is very fortunate. We have 2 excellent candidates for the post of deputy, and I do hope that Trinity comes out in force. I'm saying we always have 50% normally at the turnout, and we want to be even higher than that and show the way that the people of Trinity come out and support. There's no apathy in Trinity. I know we don't have elections all the time, but let's put it this way. When we do have one, let's come out and support. It's going to be one of those interesting days, and I look forward to seeing as many as you possibly come and vote. And if anyone happens to be sick on the day, you can always phone, just tell anyone they can phone the parish hall. There is a sick vote, which we can go out on the day with the jurat or with one of the Ashmans to collect those people. So no one would be barred from voting. There is a pre-poll voting in Trinity a week on Saturday. Just to tell you, be careful, you might get caught up with the car running at the same time, but hopefully they don't start till 1 o'clock and it's in the youth centre, and we will be staying open, and if those who want to come to pre-poll, you're most welcome to come to Trinity. But I just thank you all for attending. It's good numbers on this, we've had a good evening. It's been very well contained. I'm pleased to say we're very civilised in this parish. And I thank you all for coming and we look forward to seeing you on polling day and voting up here. Thank you.
On behalf of you and I'd just like to thank John for showing us this meeting.